I read, thing about social media these days is that you read something, you don't even know who posted it, but it stays with you, right? I really want to quote this person. So if you're this person, I'm quoting you. I'm so sorry. I'm not plagiarizing. But it was a woman who posted, and she said, women are over mentored and under sponsored. Right? I had the same reaction. I thought this is so true. Because what will happen on a month like Women's Month, women like us will gather in many spaces like this, right? In fact, I'm looking at Sis Musi there, and it feels like she's following me around this year. Sis Musi, how many sessions have we been in like this year alone? So we don't have a shortage of conversations. We don't have a shortage of reflections. But the point is that we keep coming back. And when we come back, it's the same issues. The problems that we're raising are not being addressed. And so what I'm hoping is going to be different about tonight is the fact that we are gathered at an academic institution. No pressure, Monde. So the fact that we are gathered at an academic institution means that perhaps the kind of thinking we're going to bring to the problems that we as women are trying to solve could well be different. And maybe that even some of the people in the room are the ones who are making decisions around policy that could make a difference in our lives. We're gathered here today, of course, convened by the Black Management Forum. It's an organization that I am not a member of, but I think one of these years they need to give me honorary membership because I've had such a close relationship with the BMF for many, many years now. So they forget that I'm not a card-carrying member. And of course, we've been convened under the theme celebrating the transformational journey of women in leadership, celebrating the transformation journey of women in leadership 30 years on. So it's an opportunity to reflect on what has this 30 years really looked like for women. My name is Kathy Mutlahlana, and I will be your host for tonight. I, in fact, have the easiest job because all I have to do is make sure we stick to time and everything else goes on track. It's really our panelists that have the difficult job. And of course, you that's got to ask all the smartest questions in the room. So no pressure again on that one. Perhaps to also give a foundation of the conversations we're going to have today is when we think about transformation, and the theme in many ways pushes us, the context it has given, is that it pushes us to look at the successes, right? It pushes us to look at the victories. Why? Because we're celebrating. So it says, okay, guys, look at the good stuff. And of course, we have to acknowledge that there have been successes, that there have been victories for women. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge the fact that we are not where we would want to be. And I want to go back to a lecture that was given by Angela Davis in 2016. It was at the Steve Biko Bantu Memorial Lecture, the 17th one held in 2016. And what she emphasized in that particular lecture was the idea of unfinished activisms and what the contemporary struggle for justice looks like. Because when we see ourselves as women, yes, we stand on the shoulders of many incredible women that have made this path possible for us today. But we also have to acknowledge the fact that we are involved in the cycle of unfinished activisms. And I wonder how many of us think very intentionally about what those activisms are and how we take it upon ourselves as women that perhaps have more franchise than those that have come before us. What it is that we are doing differently and quite intentionally so to make sure that the gains that have been made historically are not lost in our generation, but also that my daughter and your daughter growing up can grow up in a different world. And not different in terms of what we can provide for them, but different in terms of what they can do and who they can be. Because we know that in South Africa today, in a room like this, many of you are able to take your children to good schools. So it's not that they won't have a good education, but will they be able to realize their full potential within the current framework that we exist in as a society? And those are really the questions that should unsettle us. And we should grapple with finding answers to them, because that's what's going to ensure that indeed our generation of women has left society and has left its mark in society. And we have really continued the idea of these unfinished activisms. And the reason why it's activisms is because there are many, and they look different for each of us. Somebody is, fighting the fight of climbing the corporate ladder. Somebody else is saying, well, actually, I have a family. I just need to be able to take care of my kids and get to work every day. So our story is not all the same. But regardless of the journey you choose for yourself as a woman, you should have the opportunity to realize the full potential of that journey. And what are we doing today to make sure that that is possible? If it's not possible for us, certainly we must find ways of making it possible for coming generations. So that's me, putting my politics degree to good use. On that note, I'm going to invite to officially kick us off with tonight's program and open the session for us. I'm going to invite Miss Mwabi, who of course is going to do a much better job than I have at giving us a warm welcome. Please, let's give her a warm round of applause. She is with the BMF.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen that are here. Welcome to the celebrations. Tonight, we are celebrating the journey of women in leadership. Can you believe we're looking at 30 years? It's absolutely unbelievable. As I was wondering and preparing to come here tonight, I looked at, and I want all of us to Google the importance of women on Google, and it's quite interesting what it says. It says women are the backbone of families and communities. They provide care, they provide support, nurturing for their families and communities. So each and every single one of us sitting in this room have that responsibility to provide care, support, and nurturing. And it speaks about the development of children, female and male children. So we have to celebrate ourselves because we are the ones that upbring the community and make sure that every developmental stage within the community happens according to the way that we project it. We also play an important part in community building. We are here in Henley. This is part of building a community of women. And it's always the woman in the forefront that will be taking the spear to say, let's build this community. And as an organization, BMF, we are very deliberate around developing women, particularly in managerial leadership and socio-economic transformation. The reason why you see this WEAD here, I hope you are not thinking it's Wednesday today. It's standing for the Women Empowerment Desk, which is the desk of the BMF. So previously it used to be called the gender desk, and it will be all the mamas of the BMF will caucus and speak about issues within the organization, but that desk has since transformed. We have now recognized that as women, particularly those in leadership, we have the responsibility of developing ourselves. And once we have developed ourselves, we also then develop the community in which we live in. So as WED, Women Empowerment Desk, we have been involved in numerous initiatives to empower women. There's programs such as the Women Empowerment, which we have partnered with organizations like Juke, and there's more programs that we are going to be busy with Henley to empower women within our society and empower women within our community. So I want you to look at the woman sitting next to you right now and tell this woman, say, you are never above me. You are never below me. You are always sitting next to me. I will always support you. Womanda! And to our sponsor today, Old Mutual, you are always never above us. You are never below us. You are always holding our hand. You are always supporting us. We thank you, Old Mutual, for making this opportunity available. But ladies, let us enjoy this evening and notice how we were strategic. Women's celebration in September. We allow all the celebrations to happen in August. Then we say we are coming to close it with a bang. So, ladies, enjoy your evening. And I hope you really, really learned a lot. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you so much, Ms. Moabi. That's Lily Moabi. She's, of course, the BMF acting president. Speaking then of WED, for those of you that are on social media and are posting about this event, by the way, I've got a little incentive for you to post, eh? Yeah. Me and Old Mutual have got your back. And this is the part where I need the Old Mutual team not to let me down. So I've got a couple of incentives for you. The hashtags that we're using for tonight is hashtag Women in Leadership 30, hashtag BMF, and hashtag Accelerating Economic Transformation. I know for a fact that Monde probably insisted on that one because it's so long. Hashtag Accelerating Economic Transformation. So we're going to be giving away some prizes for those who have the most posts, but also for those who have the most insightful posts. For those of you that are mindful and demure, you can absolutely start putting your minds to good use, and it might actually bring you good fortune by the end of the evening. Without wasting any further time, let me ask our sponsors for this event to come on stage. Deline Sechel is the executive at corporate engagement for Old Mutual. Deline, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kathy. It's Deline Sechele. Sklukhulusa bakwena. Yeah. Swana saka si robegile. That's where it starts and where it ends, but anyway, yeah, my son is Sechele, not Sechel. Someone said to me earlier on, I sound like someone from Cape Town. I was nowhere near Cape Town. I was never born there. I don't have family there. I'm from Randfontein in the West Rand, okay? Yeah, let me not be rude. Dumelang, Sanbonani, Molweni, Nda, A. Thank you. All protocols observed. Ladies and the very few brave gentlemen in the room, it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you this evening, representing the sponsor, Old Mutual. I do have a few thoughts that I would like to share about the event and why this is obviously of importance to us. We've got a very good relationship with the BMF that spans over a number of years. But why women and why transformation is pivotal to us in Old Mutual goes without saying. We're a business that's been around for over 197 years. We have seen 179, sorry, I'm mixing up my numbers. We've seen the transformation of South Africa not me personally, as you can see, I'm not that old, but as an organization collectively, we have seen the transformation of the country over centuries, I can literally say. And it is pleasing to see the strides that we have made. So standing before you this evening, it really fills me with absolute pride as I reflect on the journey of the past 30 years and the progress that we have made as women. Some of you, I don't know where you were 30 years ago, but some of you, as you were reflecting, starting out in your careers 30 years ago, I don't know if you imagined that you would be where you are today. I certainly didn't. I was in grade 11. In the community that I come from, people worked at the bank as tellers. My mother was a nurse, but she said, you're not going there. So I was really at a loss for what will I do with my career. But growing up and watching people like May Gloria Sirobe, Wendy Luhabe, Dr. or Professor Shirley Zinn, as she is known now, those are the people that inspired me in my early life. And obviously we are now at the next phase, the next cohort of women, that'll create the next legacy for women to come, the women to follow us. And that's really also why this panel conversation is so important. The women who will be talking to us this evening are pioneers in their own right. They have cleared a path for themselves, but also for the women that they lead and the organizations that they lead. They are major sources of inspiration for all of us. As you can attest, I'm sure you will agree with me on that. But it would really be irresponsible of us to just stop and celebrate the successes and not acknowledge the challenges. We all know women earn 75 cents to the rand compared to men. Women, the face of poverty in South Africa, actually, poverty and unemployment is a female. So there are still many, many struggles. When we consider women in leadership globally, it's around 42% in South Africa. We are sitting on a measly 26 to 27%, and it's actually been going backwards year on year. So we still have a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of advocacy. We still have a lot of activism that we need to do. So we should never get tired of driving the message of transformation. And we should do so unashamedly. This is our country. And we should be the faces of leadership in this country. So with that being said, obviously we want to see more representation of women, but I do want to get onto a small little soapbox. People who know me know I often get onto a soapbox about things, but if you will allow me, I would like to get onto a very specific soapbox, and that is about women and our financial empowerment. It is very important, ladies, that as we build these careers, that we also build our financial muscle, that we are very comfortable, very confident about managing money, managing our own finances, and building wealth for ourselves. It pains me a lot when I see young women who are not concerned with long-term savings, who are not concerned with saving for the short term even. We are fixated with hair and nails and heels. Those things are not gonna take care of you in your later years. Those things are fleeting. Take care of the things that actually matter, which is about leaving a legacy for those who come after us. Let us be the generation that builds that generational wealth, and it requires financial discipline. I work in the employee benefit space. We see even there the disparities between what men and women earn. But one of the big disadvantages that women have is because we go on maternity leave, we put aside a whole lot less than men for our retirement. I know it's not a sexy topic, but we do want to, in the Old Mutual corporate space, redefine retirement. It's not about retirement. It's about securing an income for yourself for life, a sustainable income for life. Many of us here will complain about black tax. what is the source of that black tax? If you're if you're a sandwich individual where you have to take care of elder parents and obviously your kids coming up, our parents didn't make adequate provision for retirement, which is why they are a burden to us. I'm sorry to use that word, but that is what it is. So let us not be a burden to the generation that comes after us. Do the responsible and the right thing. Contribute to a pension fund or an RA. Take care of your legacy. Take care of your golden years and the time to come. I know some of Thanks, Clearly. I appreciate the support. Finally, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to get into my soapbox. But finally, I just want to say that there's a lot that we must do as leaders in organizations to make sure that we really do take care of the female agenda. Things like flexible work, looking into those pay structures, helping women to save more for retirement. Those are crucial things. But our panelists are actually going to get into more of the practicalities and the things that we should be considering from different angles. So they are corporate leaders, as I said, some are entrepreneurs. And so really take what they say to heart. I'm hoping that tonight that they will touch on the importance of policy. And that's really one of the things that I love about the BMF, advocating for policy change. I know there's a lot of conversations in South Africa about the relevance of the EE legislation, the BE legislation. We must continue to advocate for that legislation to stand and to be even made more stringent so that we can see the change that we need to see in this country. So, Matswara Marapo, you can come back. That's me getting off the soapbox. Thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you to BMF for arranging this event. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for that, Deline. I thought that there would be more women clapping their hands when we're talking about the importance of saving, and in particular, saving for retirement. But I can see that, I'm not pointing fingers. Deline, this is a private conversation between me and you. I just feel like we know the people who are going for the two-pot system and sending in applications. I feel like we know who they are, but I'm not pointing fingers. No judgment, no judgment. And, Deline uses a disclaimer and she says, I know this is not a sexy topic. And for me, it's so unfortunate that in 2024, in a room full of majority women, we still have to talk about what is a sexy topic to be talking about and what is not a sexy topic. Because these are issues that affect our lives, whether or not we choose to acknowledge them, whether or not we choose to have conversations about them, they're the things that we deal with when we walk out of this room. So let's normalize having some of these conversations and indeed make them sexy. I am a woman of my word. Thank you, Old Mutual and BMF. I said earlier that for those who are posting, I do have some incentives. So this is the first round of the evening. Thank you for heeding the call. If you forgot the first time round, let me remind you, so that while I announce the winners, you also put yourself in line to be a winner. The hashtag is Women in Leadership 30 and hashtag BMF. And the other one is hashtag Accelerating Economic Transformation. So our first winners for the evening, Pumi, where are you? Pumi. Pumi Mutsamai. Where is Pumi Mutsamai? Congratulations, Pumi. Well done. It's for posting. It's for posting. So you post and you stand in line to win lovely prizes. These are the first ones of the evening. Wendy Silinyana. Wendy, where's Wendy? Hey, okay. The right side, my right, your left of the room is winning everything. Congratulations, Wendy. Congratulations. You see, the winners are dedicated people. They post, they're in monochrome, they are winning in this life thing. Winning. Let me invite then our panelists for today's discussion. And please, I won't say bear with me because it's not bearing. There are not many platforms where we get to hear people's CVs, right? But I want to read their bios so that we can appreciate them for who they are and what they've been able to do. On many other platforms, you know, they speak at many other engagements, and I'm sure when they introduce, it's just, yeah, she's come up, you know who you are, come. But today, of course, is a bit different, and because we're celebrating the transformational journey of women, I think they also encompass and espouse in so many ways what is possible for us as women in South Africa today. So the first guest that I'm going to invite to please take a seat on the stage is Busisiwe Mavuso. She's a certified chartered accountant. I didn't know this about you, by the way. So I was quite pleased reading your CV. She's qualified with the Association of Certified Chartered Accountants, ACA UK, and holds a master's degree of philosophy in applied business leadership and management, Spanish University. Master's number 1. Master's number 2, a master's degree in business leadership, UNISA, postgraduate qualification in management at Gibbs, is that computer? In accounting from UNISA, and because apparently she just has not had enough of school, she's currently completing her PhD. Busi is the Chief Executive Officer of Business Leadership South Africa and Non-Executive Director of Business Unity South Africa, Business Against Crime South Africa, and Resultant Finance, a PIC investee company. She serves on the Human Resources Development Council and Council of Social Justice Champions. She's also a member of ACA and YPO. She was awarded the 2020 Influencer of Influencers Award. How does it feel being a chief influencer? By the Africa Brand Summit in 2020, and she was named second runner-up for the Business Person of the Year by Daily Maverick in 2021. In 2022, the Women in Economic Development Leadership Forum awarded Busi a certificate of acknowledgement to recognize the years of dedication to the field of business leadership and economic development in South Africa. And not too long ago, in 2024, Busi received the runner-up Business Leader of the Year award from the Future Leader Forum, an accomplished woman in our midst today. Please give her a warm round of applause. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is, of course, another incredible woman. Let me tell you a little bit more about Celiwe. She is the Director, Group Strategy, Sustainability, and Public Affairs at Old Mutual. She has over 20 years experience in financial services, mining and infrastructure and development. She's developed strong credentials in project management, structured finance, leadership advisory, and team effectiveness. Celiwe's multidisciplinary experience allows her to align and integrate her portfolios to maximum value. Some of her remarkable achievements include graduating as the first Black female mining engineer in South Africa, recognized as Gauteng's Businesswoman of the Year by the Businesswomen's Association, and also recognized as the Standard Bank Top Woman Business Leader in 2022. She holds a mining degree from Wits University and an MBA from the University of Cape Town. She's passionate about the convergence of technology and people and the transformative impact that it has. Let's give her a warm round of applause as she comes on stage. Okay, and this is the part where I'm hoping technology is not going to let me down. Please bear with me. And last but certainly not least, our third speaker today is Cindy Mabaso Koyana. She's a CA and respected businesswoman who is the co-founder of the African Women CA Association. She later led the formation of the investment arm AIH and the private equity firm AIH Capital. AIH has built a portfolio of solid investments in the financial services, industrial, and technology sectors, where Cindy plays a role in strategic and development growth of these businesses. She's proud of the mission of the AIA Group, which drives financial inclusivity and financial independence for women. Her illustrious career has included managing director of Vimax Logistics, a subsidiary of Transnet, Group CFO of Transnet, executive partner at Ernst & Young, amongst others. She's also served as non-executive director of large corporates, including listed entities, where she's chaired the audit and risk committees, sustainability committees, and remuneration committees. These include the PIC, SAA, ARMSCO, SAICA, FIFA, Adcop Holdings, Toyota South Africa, chairperson. I must say, part of the reason why I'm enjoying it tonight is because I get to do things that I don't usually do in platforms that are not quite what they are tonight. So Cindy is also a fellow of the Aspen Global Leadership Network, a member of the International Women's Forum, an advisory member of Antwerp Management School in Belgium. And of course, she's also a renowned leader and champion of development and growth of young women. She's also been named as the top 20 most powerful women in South Africa. In 2013, she was also nominated by the CEO magazine as the most influential woman in business and the public sector. So as you can tell, certainly no shortage of excellence and brilliance on the stage. Please give our panelists a warm round of applause as we get started. I hope you all enjoyed your intros.
I think you enjoyed it more.
Oh, did I enjoy the intros more? Because you're also incredibly well accomplished. And I think the reason why you received the kind of applause that you did in the room today is moments like this become part of what Delene was talking about. That as you're sitting down, you're looking at what's possible. There are women that you look up to, there are women that you see, and you think, well, if she can do it, she becomes the aspiration. She becomes, if I can be at her level, then I know that I can tick my box. But I imagine that it's not an easy journey. So before we get into the nitty-gritties, let me begin by getting a sense, more broadly from each of you. Where are we? We're celebrating tonight, and I don't want that to be lost on us, right? We're celebrating 30 years of this transformational journey. But if I'm to ask you, maybe what you would say are the things worth celebrating, what would those be? Let me begin with you, Cindy.
thought that would be the case sitting right next to you. I wasn't strategically positioned. The reason why I think it's important that you enjoy, and we all enjoy it as much as it's embarrassing. One of our presidents in South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, will stop you and will come and stand next to you, obviously, while she's still introducing him, because he'll feel this is too much, you don't need to. Is it necessary? And the reason why it actually struck me is because for the first time in this country, when government officials were being announced, I saw universities scrambling in claiming them. I don't know if anybody noticed, where they said, these ministers are the alumni of UP. And I said, wow, this is a great space to be in as South Africans, where our leaders, we actually, put a spotlight on the journey of education. So thank you very much. And thanks for the opportunity to be here today, celebrating 30 years. 30 years ago, Kathy, I was 25 years old.
Sure.
I had missed my own transformation target. I had put a goal to become a chartered accountant at the age of 21. As you can tell, I was already 25. I was getting ready to write my board exam for the 4th time. And by God's grace, I did then get it after the 4th attempt in 1995, which was 8 years after our first Black woman, Sis Nonkululeko Gobodo, had qualified, which was in 1987. Sis Nonkululeko had qualified 70 years after the first woman in the country, Elizabeth Kruger, had qualified in 1917. And by the way, she had started a few years before that applying to be admitted by the Institute. And because she was a woman, it took a very long time. So in 1917, when she was finally admitted, it is something that it had taken so long, definitely needed to be celebrated. Because the Institute had been formed 23 years before, which was in 1894. So in qualifying as a chartered accountant with all the challenges, because you talk about it's good to celebrate, but let's be realistic about what the journey entails. Because when we then see what we term successes, and I like what Kathy said, success can be defined in many angles, and it is also at a given point in time. If your goal has been to qualify and get a degree and get a PhD this year, that is success. And if your goal had been your health, to look after your health, that is also success. So for me, I think it is very important that we remain grounded as human beings behind the titles. So in that journey, 2002, we decided to form the African Women Chartered Accountants. At that stage, there were about 400 and odd Black women, with the intention, and I'm saying this because from here, post-celebrating, what do we still need to do? The intention was to make sure that indeed we drive the number of Black women CAs, and those of us who had already qualified, instead of basking and celebrating, let's then remember the responsibility that came with. It has been a collaborative journey. We will claim it on the role that each one of us played. Organizations like BMF played a very big role during those times, ABASA and AWCA. Today, we've got more than 11,000 Black women CAs, and Black, by the way, is AIC. That is about 19.6%. From 2%, that 400 was just under 2% actually. It was 1.9% in 2002. Today, we're sitting at 19.6% of Black women CAs. But women, including white women, is about 42%. But listen to this. the 42%, if you look at under 35s, because the numbers that we're talking about are people who qualified after, in the last 30 years, but under 35s, women are 54%. And males are 46%. So basically, indeed, there is a story to celebrate. We need to remain in that space, but there is a lot of work that still needs to be done. I think I'll just end there, and we'll then unpack in terms of what have been the other critical elements of some of these successes that we saw, which are policy-driven, because if I may just highlight, we also live in an amazing country, because the UN only woke up, was it 2015, when they started looking at the Sustainable Development Goals. This country, at the wake of our democracy, 2 years later, we actually enacted the Commission for Gender Equality, that was in 1996. 2 years later, employment equity. And then just a few years later was BE. So we have led and trailblazed as a country in doing what humanity needs to do, issues of equality. So from a policy point of view, which a number of corporates have had to fit in, I must say, we are not short of policy. What we need to be discussing more is indeed the execution. What stops us? What is the stumbling block? That is what we need to unpack and talk about real journeys and practical, learnings to share amongst ourselves. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that, Cindy. Teliwe?
So, Kathy, you took one of the statements I wanted to open with when I was reflecting on what I wanted to share today. I'm not the person who coined the term, but I definitely use it a lot, which is the fact that women are over-mentored and under-sponsored. Mentorship and sponsorship are different. A mentor teaches you or enables you to do your job. They give you skills, they give you advice, they share their perspectives and their experiences so that you can benefit from them in what you're doing now. Sponsors are different because they literally kick barriers out of your way. Yeah. They speak about you in rooms where you're not present. They favor you unfairly over others. So to your starting question, 30 years ago, where was I? I turned 45 this year. So I was 15, I was in high school. And reflecting, it's interesting when you look at life through the lens of today, many things only make sense by looking backwards at them. So much of what Cindy was sharing is about connecting the dots to where she was, qualification, where women chartered accountants were, and the progress that has been made to date. So I was 15, I was in high school, and contrary to me right now, I was very geeky, glasses, braces, the lot, very bookish teenager. I happen to have an identical twin sister, and both of us are engineers, so you can imagine. But I think looking back at Celiwe then, and the things that I would say to her at 15 versus at 45, is the journey doesn't always make sense. I can sit here today, I can never say to you that all of this was predicted or planned, or I worked so hard. It's not through hard work and effort alone. Hard work and effort is important, but it's not through hard work and effort alone. It's a journey that definitely was mentored, guided, but very heavily sponsored by men, might I say. And that's largely because I actually come from a male-dominated industry, I guess, but even in financial services, the bulk of my career is in financial services, it really has been men who have made the decision to be able to say, hey, why her over any other person? And I want to say that doesn't come without requisite hard work and putting in extreme amounts of effort to be recognized and to be sponsored. When people, whenever I make that term and somebody says, hey, will you sponsor me? I'm like, I don't think you quite got it, because I don't know you, with the greatest of respect. And I think a lot of it comes from someone firstly spotting something, and that something is in the midst of getting stuff done. And I think that even in the conversation around women and women empowerment, to Cindy's point, when she shares the percentages have grown, but it's not 100%. It probably will never be 100%, well, not in our lifetime anyway. And so to Nelson Mandela's quote around climbing a mountain, and the time you reach the top of a mountain, only to realize there's just another mountain to climb. I think as women, we need to accept that this is an ongoing journey for all of us, individually and together. And that work doesn't stop. It's not going to stop now. It's not going to stop with us. It's not going to stop with you either. And so for me, it's the incremental gains that we make in every one of these conversations and in the work that we do. The work that we do jointly, the work that we do quietly, the work that we do very loudly that is recognized, whether we want it to be or not. Believe me, I can tell you, none of us, in our quiet moments, this is not really like, you hear people reading your bio and sharing all sorts of things. It certainly isn't the way I would personally describe myself. And I share those things because I think that the dots only connect looking backwards. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know what's next. You know, I said I'm 45 now, and for the first time in a long time, I'm actually sitting and thinking about, what does this all mean? Where does it go to next? You know, what is the purpose of the journey? And a lot of it happens incrementally and in little steps like the ones that we're taking. And I think sometimes we want to aim for big and lofty things. Policy matters, regulation matters, the laws matter, you know, the world of work is changing. All of those big things matter. But actually, like, I think the most important thing for me has become about building meaningful connections, most of them one-to-one, not many one-to-many, and being discriminate about the choices for those connections and the difference that they will make in the long term. So that if a few people can, through a conversation or guidance, mentorship, or even sponsorship in that journey, can look back and say what a meaningful part of that journey and how much easier it became for them because of my own intervention, for me, that's what matters most now. I don't yet have the ability to change whether it's the political system or policies that are being driven. We all have a part to play in that. But I think for me, it's become increasingly important to value the incremental steps that we're making. We've made massive progress. You know, I'm a mining engineer by background, as you heard. When I qualified in 2002, there weren't many people. In fact, I was the only one who looked like me who qualified. And that industry didn't know what to do with someone like me. Today, it's very different. There's a whole lot more that have been able to come after me. And hopefully their journey was just a lot easier than mine was.
All right. Thank you for that, Delia. Busi?
Sure, Kathy, so much has been shared. Is this thing on?
Yes, it is.
On.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to say or what I'm supposed to share. But maybe let me just say, I absolutely agree and resonate with the sentiment that I guess when you start off that many years ago, in my case 30 years ago, at a very tender age of 17, I was smart like that.
Still are.
No, my journey was a bit different. So I came from a family and a background where I couldn't go to varsity full time. Matriculated at a very tender age of 16. So at 17, I had to get a job, and I started with my university studies. Distance education through UNISA. It was very difficult. It took me 9 years to finish my degree, Kathy. It took me probably maybe another 4 years to finish my post-grad qualification. I went on many years later to do my MBL with UNISA, and only at that time, and I think now this is 2015, I decided to put into or consolidate the experience that I had gained over the years in finance, and I decided to qualify with the Association of Certified Chartered Accountants in the UK, because I guess to my greatest disappointment, and I continue saying this to the SAICA CEOs, that I don't know why SAICA doesn't afford us that opportunity of studying part-time, that opportunity of studying distance, learning path, that opportunity of, and precisely in an environment that we find ourselves in, where so many of us couldn't access some of these opportunities. Doesn't matter how much you actually wanted to go to university full-time, you couldn't. Your family background didn't actually allow you to, so I actually had to go and do this in the UK. So believe it or not, I only qualified as a certified chartered accountant at the age of 14, 2018. So I think that is how much it meant to me, 23 years. So 23 years after matriculating, and I look at it and I say, it's actually quite unfortunate. It would be a tragedy, if those who come after us actually have to go through some of the difficult paths that we have actually had to go through, but it puts you in a very difficult, disadvantaged position, Kathy. The reason why there still are so few of us, in these top leadership echelons, as Black African women in particular, is precisely because of some of these, journeys that take you forever to get where you need to get. I look at it and I say, matriculated at 16, if I could go to varsity full time and could, do my undergraduate degree, do my CTA, get into articles and whatever the case is, at 23, 24, I could have qualified as a chartered accountant. And you look at it, right? 25, right? And you look at it and you say, for someone else who probably maybe doesn't look like me, who was born on the right side of the fence, who qualified at 25, how far along in life are they, and when do they get to reach the levels that I'm only reaching now? And I think that is the unfortunate part, where you are being held back by circumstances, so I think I continue to be very passionate about the issue of socio-economic justice precisely from that perspective, to say that so many of us are actually limited by the environments that we come from. So many of us could have been more, our mothers included, if we were born in a different kind of country, if we were born in a different kind of era, if we were born in a different kind of time, if we were born on the different side of the fence. All it takes is the M1 bridge. Are you born on the Sentin side or on the Alexander side? We can't continue. It's unfortunate that you continue to live in a country where your fate is determined, by precisely that, and I think that really shouldn't be, but I've learned along the way, I've gotten to realize that each and every path, milestone that I've actually experienced has actually enabled me to be here. It has been an accumulation, and I think that experience matters when you reach some of these levels. You've been there, you've done that, you've actually gotten through the hard slog, and that gives you confidence, to know that I've actually started at the bottom and I've gotten to where I am. So along the way, I've really learned the importance of being decisive, the importance of standing for something, the importance of choosing a side, even when I'm self-critical inside about, the decision that I'm making, the importance of being self-confident, because I think being self-confident, because performance or confidence is important for performance. And it's not just in leadership. Confidence, for whether you are a runner, you are a player, whatever. If you're going to perform, confidence matters. And so many of us, precisely because of so many of our backgrounds, you still struggle with this notion of the imposter syndrome. You look at yourself and you say you're not enough. Even high-achieving women like ourselves, you still walk into a room and you actually question yourselves. You have those small conversations with yourselves to say, you know what, I belong, here. So I think those are the things that you get to continue learning along the way, but it has been an incredible journey. But I'm also very deliberate and intentional about, I think, precisely mapping out what my journey has been, because I guess it's important, Kathy, so that for some people in the room who are actually trying to get somewhere, for them to understand that your path will not always be linear. You know, you will not always, it won't always be one, if that is the path, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sometimes it will be 1, 2, you jump to 7, you come back to 3. You know, that's zigzag. You know, and that's okay, you know, because it's your own journey. You actually need to embrace it. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You know, I remember when I think when we were turning 35 at the BMF, someone said, you know, when you reach that age and you haven't, I don't know, made it to an executive position or something like that, you must know that you have failed. Sure. You know, you must know that you're not. And, you know, I think about those things right now and I say, what a whole lot of bullshit. You know, who said it happens? For some of us, it happens at 30. Yeah. For some of us, it will happen at 46. Yeah. You know, for some of us, it will happen at 50. I think just the confidence to keep on keeping on. You know, just because I read somewhere and I don't know who said it, just because you're moving sideways doesn't mean you're not crowning.
Sure.
For those who know jazz, you know, so just because your journey is not as straightforward doesn't mean you're not crowning. And I really think that we need to take comfort in that.
Sure. And what an incredible journey I think your story is. And give yourself more credit. You are still quite young. And, you know, as leader of the organization that you lead, you, of course, are a formidable voice and have become a formidable voice for that organization. Transformational leadership as a theoretical idea, you know, is, in and of itself, it begins with expectation. It sets expectation that you must come in and your agenda must be to transform. Practically, when we think about transformational leadership in terms of the corporate space, the governance space in a country like South Africa, what would you say, Celiwe, you have seen and perhaps even intentionality? And, you know, this question, I'm a bit loath to ask it, right? Because when women ascend to high positions, there's always the expectation on them that they must do something to change things. You must be better than your predecessors. You must do more. And we don't quite do the same with men. And I understand where it's coming from, but the reality is that it again shows the unfair expectation that we can often place on women who, as we've heard from the stories of our panelists today, are also trying to survive and understand the environment that they're in. Celiwe?
You know, Kathy, firstly, for me, I've always viewed transformation as an outcome. It shouldn't be an intent. It's too much pressure. And transformation looks different for different people. So for me, it has to be an outcome. And to be able to get to that outcome, the journey starts with yourself. You really, like, when you start looking at our organization, it's large, it's multi-jurisdictional, it's highly regulated, et cetera, et cetera. If I had to walk into Old Mutual today and say, I'm going to be transformational, I think I'm going to fail. For me, the starting point starts with me. It starts with yourself. To thine own self be true. And I feel like a lot of people haven't done the inner work as leaders just to understand who they are. Because for some people, like the aspiration is around, I really want to be a faithful steward over my family. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is a career decision if you make that decision for yourself. And if you do it well done. For some people, it is about leadership at the highest levels, whether that's in government or corporate or wherever that may be. And if you want to do that, you've got to do it well. But you've got to know that that's your aspiration, that that's what you want to do, and that's what you're going to have the energy to do. Because I think you said it earlier, Kathy, the journey itself is not easy. Forget all of those other pressures around do it better than anyone else. Just the journey of leadership at the highest level in and of itself is not easy. So you have to be able to get something from within that nobody else can give you but you. It's a God-given thing. And you have to know it and understand it and be able to tap into it at the times that you need it. So a lot of it starts with the personal mastery pieces of understanding who am I? Where do I come from? What are the things that drive me? What am I passionate about? What do I stand for? What don't I stand for? What will I take? What won't I take? I also think to Busi's point earlier, the whole notion of careers has changed. Forget the new world of work. One of the best books for all women, and one that I love, is a book called Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. And she talks about
I was
this.
hoping you weren't going to quote Lean In.
Well, you did the over-mentored and under-sponsored, so I'm going to take one from you. We have to let go of this notion that careers are built in a linear fashion. So many of us go to university. I think lots of people might be mathematically inclined, etc. So this linearity feels like a way of getting things done. It's like building a house. And it is a fallacy because it doesn't practically really work like that. It's what she says is that the careers are no longer a ladder, they're like a jungle gym. So it's a series of potentially upward moves, yes, maybe some that are sideways, potentially even downwards moves before you make a big upward move as well. And if your only focus is in the vertical journey, I promise you it's going to frustrate you because it's always going to be about the next job, the next paycheck, the next bigger role, etc. And once you accept that jungle gym mentality and understanding the experiences that you want to get and where they could potentially lead you, for me has been a thing. So honestly, like I keep saying, connecting back, I can count some things that maybe are transformational. That wasn't the intent at all at the time that they were being done. And I think if you are intending to do that, it can set you up a little bit. So a lot of it for me has been about understanding myself, understanding the impact I have on people. Honestly, Kathy, I strive for excellence in myself and in other people. Anyone who works with me and for me knows this. And it's something I've become unapologetic about over time. So I lead very much, I think, with care. I have a lot of empathy and I love to connect with people. But care it's a leadership construct that people tend to undervalue. You can love and care for your children, but discipline them. It's caring. So I think sometimes we feel like we have to mollycoddle people and show them care. We actually set them up. And I think for me, what has become increasingly difficult to do as an executive woman who happens to be Black and female has been in talking to people where I can see gaps in their arsenal of skills. And they think that I'm trying to break them down or I don't want them to. I actually want you to catapult me significantly. And all I'm sharing with you is that build these things. Do them and do them well, because those are the things that are going to progress you further. Like, just get the basics right. So many people are after the next role, the next promotion. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have those aspirations. Please do. But be very real about what you have to know. Not 100%, just the 70% stuff that I have to know and I have to do and do well. That's the stuff that just keeps your hand up. So people actually are like, oh, there she is. Oh, she's still there. Oh, she's still doing that. That just gets you next. I don't even think you have to do it better. I don't think you should take that burden upon yourself. Just do it well.
Cindy, in a country like South Africa and having the kind of context you do, transformation as an intent versus an outcome, I don't know. I mean, look at where we are with triple BEE. There's a lot of intention there and no outcome. So you've had both experiences where it has been an outcome, but didn't happen. Put it in policy, which at least forces something to happen, but even then it's still an outcome. So if we're not intentional about transformation in a country like South Africa, are we ever going to see transformation?
I see transformation in this room. It may not be enough. In fact, it's not enough at all. I'm a product of transformation sitting here. So it's a mixed bag, right? I say that because, again, it is important to look at this 30 years. The first few ministers in the new democracy who were women were amazing human beings who actually made an impact and led transformation intentionally. Me becoming a CFO at Transnet at a very young age was driven by a woman minister, Minister Stella Sikawo, who back in the day, and most people in the room who've heard me speak know I've always gone back to her, because we talk about the success in the accounting profession, in the professional spaces. Somebody like her was very intentional that no white firm or large firm will do any state-owned entity work without partnering. Joint audits, joint assignments are the thing of today. She started it back in the day in the 90s. And so when engineers, lawyers say, why has the accounting profession, it seems to have transformed more visibly? There was a strong element of collaboration, with government, the institute. The institute played a very, very strong role. So, yes, it's a mixed bag. Come to, BE. Again, it is around how we rolled it out. The policies were there. According to our policy, we shouldn't be having a problem today, right? The leadership issue, we had a president, again back then, who said, I'm going to see ministers in my cabinet who are heading portfolios that are meaningful. They were intentional as well about seeing Black organizations, your Nozalas, your Whipholds, your WDBs were formed because there was a president who sponsored and wanted to see them. And when that president left, I mean, I'm not criticizing anybody, but if you, as much as Thabo Mbeki would be criticized to say there were certain women's organizations, but the question is, which other presidents were also known that there are these strong women-led organizations today that actually came from those days? A woman minister of mining is one of the most transformed sectors in this country, mining, because it had a woman who actually led it. Not only were your Patrice Mutsepe's, the mining magnates, you've got Sis Daphne Gosi, you've got a number of women who've actually led successful businesses. Yes, we are going to then sit in the room and say, but there are a few. There are a few because, again, we need to step back in realizing BE as a policy, and it comes back to what Celi was saying, laws, regulation are put there, but it's people who need to roll them out. We are a country that was ushered into 1994 with peace, forgiveness, but there's a lot of baggage that we carried. In that, for us, transformation, economic transformation meant being a shareholder. There was little that was done in the doing. What are we going to build? There are very few businesses that were started from scratch, because a business that would have been started 30 years ago, today will probably be standing if it was actually supported and Black people supported. It pains me to see today, reading that ShopRite, Checkers, is going to be buying up spaza shops in the townships because they've realized that the growth in this country is coming out of the masses, out of the developing, out of the new economy of this country. And the question is that, why is it that way instead of us growing entrepreneurs from the townships? There was a buzz of township economy after the riots in Durban, and we were all talking about rebuilding from scratch and building right. It came up and it has fizzled out again. The township economy conversation is very muted at the moment. So it is a mixed bag. Our organization as AIH, again, it started as, it was a Section 21 where we wanted to grow the number of Black women CAs. We then decided to form an investment arm, which has got majority Black women CAs who own it, and 10% of it goes to AWCA. And 3 years ago, because doing BE is also not easy, because you need funding. And 15% of private equity funding is in this country is for women, only 15%. Because when you went into private equity, the positive part of it again is that BE led to the different industry charters. The financial sector charter actually, in its own way, ushered financial inclusivity, because most pension funds have a responsibility. I mean, Taliwe can probably speak more. In financial institutions, there has to be some banking of the unbanked. So a number of Black women-owned private equity firms, we are a private equity firm because the country put a policy and the financial sector charter said, pension funds, there will be an allocation to Black fund managers, there will be an allocation to Black women fund managers. So that, in that way, the question is, where do we then invest?
Sure.
Are we investing in businesses that are sustainable, not businesses that must then be sold back to your ShopRite Checkers, which is what is happening today. So there's an element of a door opening, but someone must walk in and then do the work. Again, it's a mixed bag. There's an element of entitlement where we also want quick wins, where you would start a business today, in 3 years' time, you are very quick to selling it to a large conglomerate, and which means we will forever be BE partners instead of business owners.
All right.
Kathy, I just wanted to add, like sometimes, when I was speaking about transformation, I'm really talking about the transformational leadership and the intent behind it. But on the topic of transformation, and in South African transformation specifically, I do think intent also matters. There's a real privilege to sit in larger leadership positions where you can have a voice about certain things. And I want to use a very practical example of something that played out in the public domain for Old Mutual in this year. A young lady went to social media to talk about her mother's payout and policy that had not been paid. And I think there's a lot, certainly from my personal perspective, there's a lot of reflection around why that was important. Firstly, no one will take to social media just nje, right? There was a whole journey that happened before that made her feel like that's where she needed to go, and we have to acknowledge that. The second thing, and Deline touched on it a little bit, has been the responsibility of financial services organizations, not only to respond, but to educate. Because I promise you, everything that led to that outcome was legally, procedurally, and otherwise correct. Because the pension fund laws in our country are a particular way, the tax laws in our country are a particular way. But when you're a woman who's going through a divorce, who needs to access a part of savings that only one person technically has control over, in this instance, which is the spouse and his employer, where else do you go to fight and have a voice? And what the law and Triple BE has required for financial services companies like ourselves to provide a level of education to consumers. We can tick that box and say we provide it, right? There's certain things that we teach at inception. When you take out a policy or you buy any sort of product, your life is a particular stage at that time. There's a delta between that time and the time that you claim. And unfortunately for us in the industry that we're in, people don't come knocking at our door because things are going well. Something has gone wrong. A geyser has burst, a car has crashed, someone has passed away. Or someone has gotten divorced, needs to access funding, or the two-pot system that we're currently all dealing with right now. But regardless, I think that the responsibility on us is becoming larger to start thinking about not just meeting the legislative requirement, which is demonstrate that you're providing education, and it's particularly to Black women and Black communities, people with disabilities, etc., but we leave them behind in the journey along the way. The journey that leads to prosperity, to saving for retirement, etc., such that when that life event happens, people don't always know or appreciate the options that are available to them at that time. That's the greater responsibility that's being placed on us. You can't legislate for that. Laws aren't going to catch up to that stuff in time. Two-part, in my personal perspective, if I may, is a great opportunity for financial services companies, specifically for insurers, to get on top of who our customers are and where they are. I think people forget that in the 1980s, there were no cell phones, there were no email addresses, many people are beneficiaries today of mine workers, of nurses, of police people, and they have no idea that they are, because we simply can't trace them. So as much as the two-part system gets a lot of negative publicity because people are drawing funds, there are challenges to that, please don't get me wrong, but there's a massive opportunity for the responsibility of financial services institutions.
All right. Thank you for that. Busi, I want to perhaps pick up on the foundation that Cindy laid in as far as women and entrepreneurship. What we have seen is we do have an incredible appetite for women when it comes to entrepreneurship. But the numbers tell us that they simply aren't able to thrive in the way that their male counterparts do it. What is it that we need to be doing and thinking about differently to ensure that the entire ecosystem better fosters an environment where women entrepreneurs can be able to run sustainable and profit-making businesses? Because that's the other challenge, is that for many women entrepreneurs, they simply just on that survival band.
Yeah, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the stats talk about 42% of households in this country are women-led, right? A whole lot of women are raising kids on their own, and I think that is a lot of burden, on us. I remember having this conversation, Kathy, with someone, and I was talking about you start a business because you've identified a gap in the market. That is how you start at least a sustainable business. You don't just wake up and decide, you have to meet an unmet demand. You will then have a sustainable business. And this person was challenging me and saying that, no. I didn't start a business because I identified a gap in the market. I started a business because I needed employment. I needed an income. So it's very interesting because so many entrepreneurs depart from that premise. And you can imagine sitting in a country of 43% unemployment in terms of the expanded definition, where you have more people that are unemployed than those that are employed. In all the provinces except Gauteng and the Western Cape, we get to entrepreneurship not because it's a passion, but because it's a must.
Sure.
So when Cindy speaks about the fact that it's unfortunate that you would get probably maybe into a business or into these initiatives and opportunities, and if you are given a chance, to probably maybe opt out, with a financial benefit, 3-5 years later, whatever the case is, you will actually take that chance. When you look at it, it's really a function of the circumstances that you find yourselves in. You spoke earlier on, or I think, was it you, Delia, who spoke earlier on about the issue of black tax, the huge burden, that many of us are actually carrying. You sit in a country where the social structure is 10% opulent, 20-30% middle class, and more than 50% of our citizens are living in poverty. So that is the context within which entrepreneurs operate in this country. So you find that probably maybe the issue of sustainability, or probably maybe some businesses failing before they even realize their potential, is precisely a function of that. As soon as you make an income, you know that, I have to buy stock, but I also have uniform to buy, kids to feed and whatever the case is. So yes, there is a bit about education, but I wonder what cushion do we probably maybe then provide, for these entrepreneurs, so that maybe they don't have to worry about the day-to-day stuff. Because I guess entrepreneur or not, you still have the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. All of us have to satisfy our basic needs.
Yeah.
And until and unless those are satisfied, if it means that you take the money that you're supposed to go and, utilize to replenish your stock, and satisfy your basic needs, you will do that. So I really think that, there is a bit about that. And I wonder, what role either from these institutions that government sets up, in as far as supporting entrepreneurs are concerned, or whether from a corporate South Africa perspective, there is something to be said around, helping women-led businesses from that perspective. And maybe men will thrive because honestly, I think, as I've said, I don't know if they actually sit with the parents that we actually sit with. They would have kids, but they won't think twice about taking that money and going and doing something else about it. As a woman, you are wired differently. We don't only think vertically, we think horizontally as well. You worry about your mother in Limpopo who probably maybe doesn't have, right? So I guess we always look at ourselves, and we look at ourselves in relation to others, and I guess if others around you are not okay, I guess that would impact, on what you're doing. So, it's a function of economics.
Well, the time is just flying, right? I don't know where the last hour has gone. I'm going to give a few of you in the room, yeah, I see you. Before I'm even done, I see your hand. So just an opportunity to ask some questions. Yes, ma'am. All right. Okay. Let's just hang on with the hands. So what we'll do is that I'll take 2 rounds. I'm going to ask everybody to please keep your questions, and maybe let me take just questions because comments might be a bit difficult to manage on a platform like this. Of course, we also have those that are joining us on Zoom, and maybe there's somebody who can monitor what's going on in the chats on the Zoom platform. Maybe we'll be able to squeeze in a couple of questions from the Zoom platform too. Please introduce yourself, name, surname, if you want, even organization that you're representing. Maybe your boss sent you here on her behalf tonight and she's watching on Zoom, so you want to make sure that she recognizes you. You're more than welcome to do that. Do we have, yes, if you can get the microphone, please. So you are number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So we'll take the next questions. Number 5, number 6, you're for the next round. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Zandile Mposelwa. Sisbusi, I really admire you. Your courage is really inspiring. And every time I listen to you on radio to tackle the challenges that Business South Africa is faced with, I really just cheer on. I just have a question for you. Earlier on, you spoke about, Kathy, the gender parity, the pay gap that we faced in South Africa. Now, I just want to get your thoughts of how do we balance self-advocacy or self-regulatory, that's the word, self-regulatory by business and the need perhaps for policy to get us forward. Taking into account that policy we've got, Usisi, you said that there's a lot of policies around, but when a policy is not a license to operate, it becomes an option for corporates. How do we do that? Because we need black tax as women, and that's my question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that question. Yes, number 2.
Good evening. My name is Laverne Prinsloo. So I'm the owner of a startup company, Beyond Drones. I must say I do appreciate all of these talks. The last one that resonated with me was also a Black Management Forum, the Tshwane event. Now there they say that we have to be intentional and deliberate. And I so appreciated those words. So I just want to ask the panel again, if we call intentional and deliberate, it means it won't be easy. It means that we have to go against the status quo in getting our women into positions and even enable them for businesses. So I would just like to say to the panel, when we say these things, please make it easier for us, especially if we say entrepreneurs, if we have, women with power and authority. How do we fund startup businesses, women-owned? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Number 3 is right here. If you can please stand once the person in front of you is done with the question so that they can see with the microphone.
Good evening, I'm Pumi Mozamai. I come from the engineering sector, I'm a mechanical engineer. The discussions today have been so interesting. There are things that I think about. I feel like in my field, transformation is a fight, an everyday fight, every single day in the workplace. And it's different organizations that I've worked for, and I see it. So I believe that, as you correctly stated, there needs to be deliberate action to address transformation in that space. But I feel that the people who have done the work of understanding who they are and understanding the environment they operate in and have grown in their organizations and become the people who manage acquisitions, who build processes, systems, and analyze the gap, understand the type of people that they should bring into organizations. Those are the people we really, really need starting up businesses. But those are the people who have the highest overheads, personal overheads. And how do you encourage those people? I think it's then funding them. How do we assist those people to move from there and take those skills and use them? Manufacture. How do I get out of there and manufacture and know that I can still pay my daughter's fees?
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that question.
Is it on? Okay. Good evening, ladies. My name is Rumbizai Mashele. I have a two-part question, if I may. So you all mentioned how hindsight is 20/20, and one day the dots connect the journey, and it makes sense. My journey's been, I studied accounting, then I got a postgrad diploma in sustainable development, amongst other several random qualifications. And I'm now the global head of a software in-flight retail company. So what I want to know is, how do you know when you've taken the wrong turn? Because I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. How do you know that this dot is not going to connect? That's part A. And the second part is that women are expected to want the title, but not the money that comes with leadership. I've been told by male colleagues who I knew earned way more than me that I'm obsessed with money, simply because I mentioned it. On the other hand, one guy said to me that he feels bad for how much he earns.
Sure.
If I know the basics, as you said, and I'm good at what I do, and everyone knows it, at what point am I deserving of the fruits of my labor? Because how do I unashamedly chase and secure the bag? Because I'm not working just for vibes.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that round of questions. I think that they were broad, so I'll give our panelists each a single bite at some of what has been raised. Who wants to go first? Busi?
Yeah. So to Zandila's question around the self-regulation against policy, I guess, Zandia always say you have government for a reason, and I think this is where our government is failing in as far as monitoring and evaluation is concerned. You've got, for instance, this Commission of Employment Equity reports coming out year after year. You know who has submitted, who's not meeting the targets, who's, dismally performing in as far as transformation is concerned. And as corporate South Africa, we are so arrogant such that we budget for penalties that don't come. So I guess it becomes a problem when you put these pieces of legislation in place and they end up becoming, I don't know, toothless dogs. Because I think corporate South Africa has learned by now that whether I comply or not, nothing is actually going to happen. I'm not a fan of over-regulation, but government in this country has to drag corporate South Africa kicking and screaming, into ensuring, that they transform. Because I guess in transformation, it's very important. In transforming, we are trying to normalize the society. You are trying to facilitate the economic inclusion of the majority of the citizens of this country. You cannot go to war with 10% of your citizens. Our social structure is highly abnormal. It's actually amazing to be sitting with 43% unemployment to still have a functioning society. But we should know at some point, that the high levels of domestic inequality that we have in this country are going to lead to social instability. We are going to have our own version of the Arab Spring. And I think transformation is important precisely for that, because there are too many people who are not participating in the economic mainstream. And as I'm saying, if you are not going to foster legitimate ways for them to eat, they are going to eat illegitimately, because eat they must. So it therefore becomes a problem. And I think for me, this is a government failure. Government has one powerful instrument, which is policy. But after putting policy in place, there has to be monitoring and evaluation, to ensure that, so the gender pay gaps, triple PE, and whatever, they are there, but we're looking at it and we're saying, but what have they produced, and whose responsibility is it? Yes, as corporate South Africa, we have to do the right thing. But if you haven't done the right thing for the past 30 years, what is government saying and what are they doing? So for me, this is a failure in political leadership and in government leadership.
All right. Anyway.
Can I just start by saying we don't pay employment equity penalties. No, seriously, it's just not the way that we lead. And the way that we lead our company. If anything, we're actually pressurizing many parts of our business to exceed, particularly when it comes to Black Africans and to women in general, and Black African women as a focus area. This is something where you have to be discriminate and you have to be intentional to make it happen. We've gotten it right, certainly at Old Mutual at the highest level of the organization. We've gotten it better. There's 4 of us who are women. Karen is white, there's 2 Indian females, Prabhashni and Zureda, and myself. We had another African female who retired last year, and then the quest will be, how we grow that bench so that we can at least get to half and then better. I think Standard Bank has done an exceptional job in this area, personally. And they've been super intentional, at least at the highest level, so that's what's visible. One has to, of course, go through the layers. I used to work at Standard Bank myself. I'd be very surprised if it's a company that's paying penalties. That's not to say what Sisbusi is saying is not correct. Corporate South Africa is large. And it's diverse, and as regulated as we are, I do think that there's a responsibility not only on government, but ourselves. This crop of leaders we have to hold our own selves accountable, and we now must push. We're fine in the bottom layers generally in corporate South Africa. We're getting better at the most senior layers because that's what's visible. The middle part and how people pierce through is what has to be the focus, and that's where government misses it. They're not looking there. So there's ownership targets, there's kind of executive management targets, and then all the other things. And whilst we are categorized in general across the very many charters, really what they should be forcing is the level, in my view, of acceleration that happens between middle to senior management. You can't transcend those layers and get to executive management too quickly. We should be holding corporates accountable at that level to make it happen. I just want to also address Sis Rumbidzai's question on pay. This is one thing where I think that policy and regulation is going to force the change. It is already. If I think about it in the US, employers are now being forced to disclose pay ranges of roles. So they can't ask, in certain states, they can't even ask you about your pay slip in your current role when you approach. They pay for a role at a certain level. Yeah. We think these things are far from us. They are not. I know that the disclosure at the moment for us is not as extensive as that. So we discuss vertical pay. CEO to the lowest paid individual. I do think gender pay, we've made gender pay disclosures already. We're one of the first South African corporates to do so, not under pressure. We think it's an important thing to correct within the organization. So regulation is starting to come into disclosure. And all disclosure does is it just opens the hood, right? Let's see the problem, and you can't unsee what you've seen. Now you must do something about it. And I think it's something we need to celebrate. It's coming in South Africa. And then there will start being, I think, the very more stringent requirements on employers to pay for the role, not for the person coming into the role. It will change. It's going to change quicker than we think.
Cindy?
Yeah, I guess the pay issue, it also comes with confidence in terms of the price that we name and that we can name. And it's a journey, and it's important that it is top down and also bottom up, because we need to bring our children up, our girls up, knowing that they are worthy and they are deserving. And in asking for what they believe they are worth, they are honoring themselves, and in that journey, they are honoring others. So it is a big thing, and I am on a listed board, who've just done the gender pay gap, and for the last 2 years, and we've been closing it, because again, you realize how wide it is by the amount of money that must be budgeted to close it, and corporates are battling to do it overnight. But you want to be a chair of a REMCO as a non-executive director, where you can see the project has started. So that's on the gender pay gap. And also some of the things we need to do, we need to be smart, because sometimes it may not necessarily be that check that matters for you at that point in time. What else matters, for you in the negotiations? So it's a very wide conversation. The entrepreneurship discussion is very interesting, because South Africa, even in the continent, was always seen to be behind in terms of embracing entrepreneurship, because we all were asked to go to school so that we can look for jobs afterwards. So we were never wired, to be able to start and walk the journey and the pain of being an entrepreneur. So as a result, to Busi's point, it's actually been a push factor, not something that we are going into because we want to be, to be in it. The good thing, though, is that we are now in that space where even in the US, they'll tell you that the successful entrepreneurs would have failed 3 to 5 times. Yeah. South Africa, we are a country of disposables, and I coined that term because we are very good when somebody has had a mishap, where we take them and park them to say that one left under a cloud, that one failed in one business, instead of saying, because this person has started and failed, they come with lessons because they know the knocks. So those are some of the cultural issues that we need to address amongst ourselves as South Africans. The entrepreneurial journey being emphasized now, there are a number of VCs, of venture capital, that are available to fund women enterprises, but what always fascinates me is that some of these VCs to fund women are led by men. Where they go to your PICs and say, I'm going to set up a VC fund which has a gender lens, and yet they're actually all guys. It's something that has hit me very hard recently, that is, it's something that we need to look at, yes, as women, but also as Black people. Invited to speak at the Black Practitioners Association, I had to just look into property. And there are 2 businesses that struck me. The one was Calgro M3. That business cuts land and sells for burials, and who are the biggest burial, who actually bury more. Calgro M3 is listed. They sell a small plot for us to bury our people at 50,000 Rand. Mm-hmm. As I studied that model, it hit me hard because it's not owned by Black people. I saw another model, Storage SA. Storage SA was started, and you know what, kudos to them. 2 young, white guys, CAs. Warehouse, you divide it, and I'm sure most people in this room are customers of storage. A simple business model, it's not rocket science. So to the point of what need are we solving? What pains me is that our needs that we know, we do not support one person who is going to start and run with it so that we all rally behind them. We do the stockfels for consumption at the end of the year. We do the stockfels for us to, you know what, I've got nothing against, businesses that can thrive, but what is the essence behind which Nkonka strives? Where that one bottle I hear of Black Aces, somebody could have started a business. How many businesses could we have started amongst ourselves as Black people? And guess who are the entertainment in those sessions? It's women. So there are certain things that policies, regulation we need, but there's also how we amongst ourselves, what do we believe we deserve and we are unapologetic about.
All right. Thank you for those contributions. I'm looking at the time and we have to wrap up this session soon. So for my two questions on the other end, can we please get a microphone? Unfortunately, I'm not adding any more to the list because we are out of time. Where is that microphone?
Good evening, ladies. My name is Tiamo Tebe, and I represent the under 35 CAs. So personal mastery is something that I'm very interested in, and I've realized that it trickles into many areas of your life as well. The ladies on the podium are well accomplished, and you are pioneers in your industries. But I just want to know, what was your why when you started? And how has that evolved as you faced challenges? Because you did mention that you are aware that the journey is not linear. Sometimes you have to, the jungle gym. How has it evolved to what it is now? And what would you say to people, because we always say, you hold on or you do well, back to the question of what do you want to be when you grow up? You have to know your why, but you don't always know your why, and it changes along the way. So I'd like to know what was your personal why and how it's evolved.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Tsakani Makaya. I'm a dealer. I'm not a drug dealer. I'm a owner of a filling station. I'm coming from corporate. One of those who started business because I had to, not because of passion. So I am standing here, I'm very excited to hear, to be in the same room with such powerful women like yourselves. I am appreciative of the insightful information that you have provided today. I've worked the journey with Sisbusi a bit in the BMF, and she's our mother for BMF. We worked a long journey with her, so we know her story, and it inspired us. She's our role model. Okay, just to cut so I just want you to help me. Oh, Cindy, I just heard you and it touched my heart that we must start somewhere in terms of entrepreneurship. But how about women? I remember the CEO of NEF stood and said, the funding ceiling start from 20,000 to 100 million. And the 100 million funding, she never seen black women applying for those funding. But there's this notion of saying, no, you don't need money to start a business, but there are businesses that need serious financial support. For example, I wanted
All right.
to.
I'm going to ask you.
Okay,
to
the last
please-
one. Just
yeah.
I'm done. I wanted to manufacture asphalt. Skontiri for those, and for me to manufacture it, I need a huge capital. So, but like, there's this notion. So I just wanna, get from you guys when you're sitting in those boardroom, when you discuss, when you're pushing the agenda for women to say, but because we are the biggest risk actually, and there's so much red tapes, and I couldn't get that funding because even if they were saying we're calling upon women for 100 million funding, and we're also looking for amazing business ideas, but we come with amazing business ideas. We understand the industry. We are well researched. We are well educated. I'm also busy doing my PhD, so I'm well learned. And I understand the industry very well as a build engineer. But what is happening? Why are we discouraged to get those funding? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, can I please just get the microphone to the young lady in the front? Do you still have a question? There's one right beside you.
Good evening, ladies, and the very few gentlemen that are here. My name is Katleo Dlamini. I am the director of a very small business we're in transport. The name is PromptWorks Logistics. And in a time and an era where people tend to have so much to say, and where our bodies are being policed, where our way of speaking, our way of dressing, everything that we do is constantly on the spotlight, I think that the one question that we have genuinely missed today is, how do you ladies constantly pour into yourselves even when things are tough? I can imagine that in the highly, highly competitive fields that you guys are in, it must not be easy. And I feel like we have not touched on mental health, which is a very important aspect in running a business and in being successful in the business that you're running. So I think the one thing that I would like to know is, what is the non-negotiable thing that you do to make sure that your mental health is in a good state, to make sure that you are handling all your affairs, family, friends, whatever the case may be, business also. How do you pour into yourself to make sure that your cup is overflowing to be able to pour into other people?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Okay, I am squeezed beyond the maximum. So for this round, I'm going to ask you to also throw in there your concluding remarks, and I'm going to be very strict with the time. Cindy?
I actually resonate with that. For me, it's the spiritual grounding. Also, it's not common, wasn't common when I came to Johannesburg as a young girl from Durban, looking for presentation skills as an accountant. How do I present meaningfully in the boardroom? And only to find that it wasn't just about presentation skills. There was a lot of work I needed to do on self. And fortunately, the coach I saw then put me on a journey. I've never looked back. So for me, therapy is part of the other therapy. Like I spoil myself, I have to go to the spa once a month. I go to my therapist once a month.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I thought it was a really great question. Firstly, I think to the why, and then how, maybe is that part. I think I've had to come to accept over time that my why is about shifting barriers. I'd love to say it's about knocking barriers and transcending them. It really has been about shifting them. And I have so many stories that for me have connected that this is why. This is just the purpose that God has put into your life. Sometimes I don't like it. I'm like, why are there always these barriers in the way? But a lot of it has been about learning how to shift them out of the way. Some of it quite softly and synthetically, some of it quite hard and forcefully. And you do need energy to carry you through. The amount of complexity and challenge, and sometimes even self-doubt, hey? There's so many times when I'm just like, sure, okay, can I really do this? Even if it is just to have a difficult conversation, whether it's at a board or with my boss or with an employee, I don't just walk in there and be like, okay, let's just talk. Like there's a lot of mental preparation that goes into it, because caring is not a soft leadership attribute. It's actually quite a robust construct that one has to learn to do over time. And so I love the spa example. The thing that frustrates me about going to the spa is I can't turn my mind off. The first 30 minutes, I'm like, stop thinking, no, so I'm learning and I'm trying as much as possible to practice to be mindful. I've got 3 children. And I don't get it right all the time. I really don't want to try and present this image of perfection. There are times when I'm with my kids and I'm like responding to something and I'm like, yeah, Nana, I agree, but not there. And I catch myself in those sorts of moments and say, it's just an opportunity to be present, to be with them, and these are memories you can never get back. And for me, parenting has been a big part of that. I've had real challenges in my own parenting journey from an infertility perspective. I've got a 14-year-old and then 4 and 2. So you can imagine what was happening in that gap. 2 babies during COVID, and my last one at 43. So it's been a real journey. And maybe because especially the last 2 came so late in life, and after much struggle, a big part of how I've learned to just pour into myself has been on focusing on the parenting journey and ushering these 3 people into a form of self-actualization. It's a big passion for me.
Wow. Lucy?
So, Tiamo, my why is really this notion of socio-economic transformation and making sure that the majority of the citizens of this country really participate in the economic mainstream. But I must be honest and say that I didn't realize that until later on, so the fortitude and the need for me to propel myself was honestly a function of necessity. It was a function of knowing that I don't have a choice but to succeed. It was a function of knowing that I have no cushion to fall back on, so I must make something out of myself, given the environment and the background that I came from. So it really was, I sometimes look at it, I've been studying since 1990, not even 1995, I matriculated in 1994, since I don't even, it wasn't grade 1 at that time, 1980, and I'm still, I'm like, this is a trauma response, honestly, it's really trauma. So it's really that, you keep on pushing yourself because you know that, so your success enables so many people to be, so failing will be selfish, for me, in terms of where I find myself. So it's really, so I think I came across my why, honestly, when I joined the BMF. I became so passionate, about what the BMF is about. And I've really taken that to BLSA, so it's not just about changing policy and ensuring that this government does the right thing, but they have to do the right thing so that so many of these people in this country that are not participating in the economic mainstream can actually be included in the economic mainstream. And I guess to the question around mental health, I have an executive coach, but I only had an executive coach probably maybe for the past 7 years or so, and I think it's that function for me. I don't know what breaking down looks like. I've not had the latitude of breaking down. I've had to be tough, and I found that mental, and literally, if you know Soweto, I grew up in White City. You can't grow up in White City. It's like Zola. And, you can't grow up there and not be tough. Taliwa knows exactly what I'm talking about.
And it's not White City, it's White City.
White City, yeah. So it was really a function of, but I found that, mental toughness for me has been the key to excellence. I've really found that I've also learned not to, a whole lot of things are written about you in social media and whatever the case is. I've somehow find a way of not internalizing those things. Finding a way of knowing that when I'm giving feedback or someone says something about me, they are merely expressing an opinion grounded in observation of how they've, experienced me. It's not the ultimate truth. So I think there is a way in which you block out those things and say, that's your opinion and it's okay. And I think that mental toughness is important.
Sure. What an evening and what a conversation. Busi, after your PhD, it's okay. You can stop studying. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. But if you want to, you can. But, you know, we support you. We support you letting it go for a bit. Thank you all for sharing your insights, for sharing your stories. I think there's so much that has been learned out of the room today, just also from how vulnerable you have been in perhaps showing us that even to get here, it's not VIP all the way. You know, that yes, you might be in the C-suite now, but certainly the journey there is not one of comfort and bottles and enjoyment and whatever else might be. And it's about the commitment that each of us really is willing to put into it, alongside being smart and making sure that we are aligning ourselves with the right people. And Teliwe mentioned it earlier, that she's not where she is because of hard work only. Because sometimes we work so hard, we show up and we tick all the boxes and we wonder why we're still not moving in the way that we should be moving. So there are realities about what the world today, what you need to succeed in the world today. And networks are a huge part of it. So let's sort of think about what that practically means. And where are we able to forge truthful and meaningful networks, not just for vibes, but truthful and meaningful networks that we know in the long run can help us achieve some of our goals. You've been fantastic. Let's give them a warm round of applause, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, you've also been fantastic. You can give yourselves a warm round of applause. Oh, I feel like I'm about to hit the roof. Maybe let me step down a bit. Oh, a picture. All right, are we good? One more.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So before I invite the managing director of the BMF to come on board, to come on stage to give his concluding remarks, I'm just quickly going to go through my list of winners for our social media posts. I promised lots of goodies, and indeed there are lots of goodies in this bag. So we've got the best dressed category. These are the ladies that made sure they found all the monochrome in all its order and also posted online. Yondi Metu and Sandra Harris. Yondi and Sandra, yay! Come, please come. Okay, are you Yondi or Sandra? Yondi, congratulations, well done. Thank you. Sandra, this is yours. Congratulations. Yes, completely on theme.
Thank you.
All right, and then for the social media posts under general, we've got Matikidi Rebecca. Hala, is she still here? Oh, there we go. I won't ask what you posted. I'll just say congratulations. Nonkazimulo Mbali Mbanjwa. Blame the handwriting. Come, congratulations. Nonkazimulo Mbanjwa. Congratulations. And then we've got Musibudi Joy. Joy. Joy! All the ladies who wore white are winning today, hey? And last but certainly not least, Sese to Tegeshe. Sese to. Oh, hey! I promise this is not nepotism because she's my neighbor. Congratulations. All right, thank you so much, ladies, for everybody that posted and for all of you that have won.
We have 2 comments online.
We have 2 comments online. Okay, please feel free to read those comments.
The first one is
As
from...
Monday comes closer to the stage.
The first comment is from Makoma Ramahwahwa. She is saying, good evening. I'm a second-year student at Tsiba Business School in Endabeni. I got introduced to the BMF as a society that is available at my school, and this is my very first event. I am fascinated at the way the speakers are sharing their experience. I only study all of this in theory, but they are our realities. An example is the answer to the salary gap between females and males. Kudos to the ladies at the podium and the difference they make in the corporate world. Thank you, Makuma. The second one is from Tsulu MD1. She says, I'm a pharmacist that started my pharmacy business in 2023. It has been an uphill battle to just stay afloat. To get funding as a startup is such a mission, even though women are being encouraged to do so. There is simply not enough support. And Solo is also asking, how do we become part of BMF? Thank you.
That's a good question to end off this comment section with. The managing director of the BMF is here. He'll tell us exactly how it is we sign up and also give us the closing remarks. Monday.
All right. Very good evening, ladies. Very good evening, ladies.
Hello.
All right. Don't drop the energy just yet. We are at the end. We are landing the plane. Thank you very much. There's some key people that we need to thank. Firstly, the program director. Kathy, I did not know that you are not a member of the BMF.
Because I've been with you for so long.
Yes. We need to correct that because the assumption has always been that you are part of us. So can we please clear that as we move forward? But thank you very much for saying yes. You never say no to the BMF. You always say yes to the BMF. May you continue to do so. And you really handled the evening astoundingly and very, very well. And you carried the event with the dignity that it deserves. Thank you very much. We also, secondly, thank the BMF acting president, Mayor Lili Moabi. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your leadership. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for supporting the organization. People here don't know actually that you come from another province. So you come in and out of Johannesburg when we have events and meetings from the Free State. So thank you very much for gracing us with your presence this evening. We also thank Old Mutual in a very dedicated and special way, the team at Old Mutual. We thank Sis Delene, we thank Putsepo, Sis Nomta, Sis Teliwe, and the whole leadership collective of Old Mutual. And this relationship is institutional. It dates back many, many years, and we really would love to strengthen it from day to day. And not only that, but even this specific celebration, that it may yield even more fruit as we go forward, and I'll close it with what I mean by more fruit going forward. But thank you very much to Old Mutual and their continued support of the Black Management Forum. To the panelists, where do I begin? Sisbusi Mavuso, a very special leader of ours in the BMF. I also worked for her at some point as well. And we really thank your presence, your leadership, your insight, your continued forcefulness and courage that you continue to display at the BLSA and in other places and spaces. We know that it can get very, very tough, but every time you speak, there are many people listening, especially young Black women whom you are inspiring. So thank you very much. Sister Eliwe Ross, thank you very much as well for your insight. Thank you very much as well for raising the bar. We are grateful that Old Mutual doesn't budget for penalties. And that is a clear thing. It was clear that you needed to make that statement that Old Mutual supports transformation. And we thank you very much for standing in the gap, and we thank you for your journey and what you've shared tonight in inspiring the next generation of Black women leaders in our country. Thank you very much. Masi Cindy Mabaso Koyana, thank you very much, Mama. I know we've been having conversations on the side, and we finally were able to bring you into the BMF this year for this specific event. You are true inspiration, very humble, very clear, very decisive, very articulate. And I know that your children, and I know that Ubaba as well, is very proud of your accomplishments, and also your mentees that you have. I know you have plenty of them. I know you don't have a lot of time as well, but we thank you for your deliberate leadership in the country that you've displayed, and all the panelists. Your contribution has been chronicled not only in the country, but in the hearts and minds of people in this country and in the BMF. Thank you very much. So as we close, just to challenge all of us in this room, that I've taken a good look around the room. I think maybe a good number of us here are not members of the BMF, which is a big possibility. When we look at our statistics in the BMF, we have more men membership than women in the BMF. That's the first challenge I'm throwing at you, that can we increase the membership of women in the BMF starting from tonight going forward? That's the first challenge to all of you tonight. So can you please register? You can go to our website, www.bmfonline.co.za, and you follow the membership tabs, and it's quite an efficient system. If you get stuck in following that, please reach out to us at the head office so that we can assist you to becoming members of the BMF. So for me, that's the first challenge. Can we have more women who are in the BMF as members of the BMF? The second issue, and we've discussed this even with Old Mutual in preparing for this particular event, is that we don't want to just have an event for the sake of it. We want to have measurements. We want to say in a year's time, these are the outcomes of this particular conversation. This is what we want to do. So the two things I will leave you with. Number one, last week we signed an MOU with Henley Business School here, and part of what we want to drive is leadership development and capacity building. So we want to partner even more and have more members, and women in particular, to come through and be developed as we move on with developing leadership or managerial leadership development through the BMF. The second challenge, which I think we need to be very deliberate on, is the fact that we need to track the development of women businesses. So between September 2024 and September 2025, through the Women Empowerment Desk of the BMF, can we have a target to say, can we at least begin or support at least 5 to 10 women-owned businesses through the BMF? So that next year we can hold each other accountable to say, so that we can stand here next year and say, because of the engagement with Old Mutual and our esteemed panel and the BMF, this is what we set out to achieve, and this is how far we are. So these are the challenges I'm leaving you with, that you become BMF members and that you develop as well as we develop our membership. Number three, most importantly, let us have a target of women-owned businesses between this year and next year, how many want to support or develop, so that we can come back and say, this is what we've done since the last year. Then we will know we have been impactful as the BMF. Thank you very much. We have gifts here, and I'd like to call our acting president and also Sis Pam as well to come through from Old Mutual so that we can hand over the gifts. You can see it's quite busy here. So can we please start with the panel? Can you please ask the panel, Sis Busi, Sis Teliwe, and Mabaso Koyan. I can't call you Sis because you to me, so you can. So and these three as well. Yeah, so it's three, and then three, and then these three. All right. Ningashaya izandla phela.
Get to keep all three packages. All three packages. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. What a spoil.
Can also ask Sis Delina as well. We also have a gift for you. All right, Ma. Right, the next one is for the acting president of the BMF, Mayor Lili Moabi. And the last one is for our program director, Kathy Moshata.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right, Monday, you done?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you so much. I think, ladies and gentlemen, that is a very good note for us to leave it on. Again, a big thank you to all of our speakers and all of the insights that they've shared with us tonight. I hope that going out of the room, there are particular things that you've noted down for yourself as points not only of reflection, but also of action for you on a personal level, because that's the only way you make an engagement like this meaningful, especially, on an individual level. It's been a pleasure. Please, there will be some networking outside. Let me apologize. We did start a little bit late. It's because of the traffic coming in here, just on Witkoppen. I know all of you were stuck there, right? So we did start a little bit late, but certainly not excusable. We do apologize for that. And that's why we're ending a little bit later than what we had planned. But there's still some refreshments outside, some networking. So if you have the opportunity, don't leave immediately, but drive safely. And we will see you again the next time. Have a lovely evening. Yes, London? Yes, yes, yes.